Welcome back to another episode of Church is Stupid,
Comma
but.
Again, one of the best parts about recording this podcast is the ability to have proper timing and get the comma but said by multiple people.
Oh, good job, Elijah. Right in there.
Again, just so that people know, that is a new podcast name, the official podcast name from here moving forward. Things will likely not change. So the official name is Church is Stupid.
Comma but.
Well, the comma isn't pronounced, but...
Only I.
Okay, from now on, is the comma implied or is it stated?
Oh, no, I state it every time.
Okay.
She states it every time. I end up stating it every time. I don't think it's officially stated. There is a comma there, but...
comma, but. Yes, see, I like to state, I don't know why. It's just, I started doing it in my head, and now I think I'm funny, so I just keep doing it.
Yeah,
that's kind of catchy.
Too. Yeah, it is.
I kind of like it.
But I don't think that we can actually, say the comma and have it be, a real word in there.
I think what we should do is we should get caught up on this bit for at least 3 minutes at the beginning of every episode.
We probably will, at least for the first few.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Speaking of getting caught up on something for the first part of an episode, we released officially, as of last week, we're pre-recording things, we released our first episode of Church is Stupid, comma but.
Thank you.
And it has done amazing compared to where we all thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I expected about 20 views. That did not. Yeah, so I had to really quickly go and fix all of the mistakes I made on all of our social media pages, like naming the YouTube page Church is Stupid, comma but podcast.
Did you include the word podcast?
I did include the word podcast.
Okay.
No, I took it out. What does it make more sense with? Oh, crap.
I think it makes more sense without.
Okay, good. I was I didn't put it in. I took it out.
You're fine.
But podcast.
Yes. So around 150 people or views on the first YouTube episode, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in. I can't believe anybody wanted to hear me talk that much. It wasn't me.
It wasn't for you.
I know. I can pretend.
So we're coming up to an interesting part of the year now.
The best part of the year.
You got a weird book.
I do. I love Christmas.
Yes, it is the Christmas season, and that's what we're focusing on in this week's episodes.
These weeks?
I can't speak English. Don't know why I'm here. Yes, and so a little bit we're going to be focusing on traditions as well as some minor controversies with the season and this time of year, as well as just kind of some of our schools of thought on Christmas and how we celebrate it.
It's the holiday season. There's no controversy. I can't imagine what you're talking about.
Do you want to fight right now?
It's the holiday season. Okay.
And this year's made everything a lot harder.
It has. It's definitely, actually, it's kind of funny. For me, this is the second Christmas season that's been really weird in a row. Because last year, I became a pastor back in, when did we get married? 2017, right, Elijah?
Yeah.
Yes. I know things.
Should have known that faster.
It's been a long
It's felt like forever.
Anyhow, no, we got married back in 2017. I became a pastor in July, and we actually got married in August. You expect when you become a pastor that Christmas season is one of your busiest seasons of the year. Mm-hmm. It's Christmas season and Lent into Easter season are just pretty much insane. And so, gosh, now how old is Lily? Oh, man, 2 years ago, when I found out I was pregnant, I did the math and realized that I was going to be on maternity leave for all of Advent.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my.
And so I did. I missed last year's Christmas Eve service. As a pastor, I went to my dad's, which was kind of nice from a family standpoint. Because when I became a pastor, I gave up the possibility of really spending Christmas Eve with my dad, since he's a pastor as well. And so it was kind of nice that we got to see him, but it was just weird. I felt wrong. Oh no. And so now this year, I'm also not going to be I'll be in Christmas Eve services, but we are not going to be recording them on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, the only person here who's working on Christmas Eve? Yeah, that's me.
It's so great. We all have so much rest.
Speaking of who we are,
Oh, yeah,
we
that's
skipped
important.
completely over introducing ourselves this week. So I am Andrew Hahn, Andy Hahn. Yeah.
Person who does all of this stuff like focusing.
Oh, yeah, I try.
I don't think any of us do that particularly well right now.
I'm Ruth. Ruth. That's what I do.
Hello, it's me, Elijah.
Welcome back.
I'm
Yeah.
back.
We didn't miss you.
Well,
Okay, so moving on.
I mean, we missed you a little bit. It was kind of awkward with Wesley. We love you, Wesley. I'm kidding. It wasn't awkward at all. It
Poor
was actually a
Wesley.
phenomenal
Don't throw me in the
episode.
middle of this.
Poor Wesley kept saying that he wouldn't be invited back, and I'm like, we'll invite you back.
No, we'll invite him back. Well, whether he chooses or not to come back, that's
After
another
this
question.
podcast, he's not gonna. Wesley, you're not allowed to listen to this podcast. No,
This one in particular, this last minute, tune it out.
it didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
No, but we've had a lot of great people on. There's us, and we're pretty great. And
Mm-hmm.
we've had John, we've had Wesley, and who knows what next year brings. Dun, dun, dun. I haven't planned it out. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
You're
just
supposed to, a little bit ahead of time.
I figured we got a theme last night, right? So what more do we
Yeah,
need?
that's on you.
Yeah, that was totally on me.
So, yes, back to this theme of Christmas traditions in the church. I believe, Elijah, you have one that you like a lot or that you've seen consistently. Candlelit service.
If we're talking about candlelit service, you worded that like it was going to be something unique that I particularly am fond of.
No, we don't
But it's
expect
just
you-
candlelight
don't-
service,
It
the
was the
thing that
only
like
thing that you brought up.
99% of people are familiar with. Candlelight Christmas Eve service is probably the only major Christmas tradition that I am particularly familiar with in regards to like church and Christmas.
No.
As far as I can remember right now, I mean that's when I think of like my church doing Christmas services or anything in regards to that. That's really the only thing that I can really think of. I don't remember particularly growing up with.
What song did they sing with the candlelights service?
Probably Silent Night,
Okay, just
but
checking.
I also
That's universal.
yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm assuming that part's universal,
Mm-hmm.
but I honestly actually don't remember. I'm
really
pretty sure it was.
I'm really hoping that there's some people who like listen to this and go, "What are you talking about?" And like we find out it's not actually universal,
Hey,
That would be
awesome.
crazy.
right? Because as far
Christmas
as I know,
Eve, yeah.
every church I've ever been to has always done Silent Night, Candlelight, Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we were preparing for our Christmas service and doing some of the recordings for it, and we were recording the song "Silent Night" with our choir, which is, I mean, it's amazing to hear them sing.
Mm-hmm.
And we did
Yeah.
a candlelit kind of thing, and I opened up the hymnal to look at the words and be able to follow through with them. And there was candle wax on the page, and I just was like, "Oh,
Oh, my heart!
It
It,
was
just
just
melted.
It worked.
it's like."
Much like that candle.
That's the only time that it's like opened up that like
Your heart?
the song "Silent Night." Okay.
Oh my goodness.
That was such a bad joke on my part. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No.
I'm dying.
My heart doesn't get opened up. Let's just put that
Sorry,
out
I
there.
should've-
For one, you can't assume things about me. Thank you very much. But yes.
My heart right now is shrinking 3 sizes.
Okay, Grinch.
You chose this. Okay, sorry, continue.
Where was I?
You're talking
Silent
about
Night.
the
The
candle
wax.
wax.
Silent Night and the hymnal. Only time it's opened is during that like candle lighting part of everything. And I think this may be where our first controversy arises from. Fake versus real candles.
Ooh. Okay, so here, actually, this year is so weird because my contact is also falling out at this exact moment, so please forgive me. So this year, there was this big controversy over that amongst a lot of my pastor friends because churches, the classic candle, but they want to do battery powered this year. And so people were like, well, why? It's fine if we're 6 feet apart. We don't need to worry about that, right? With the COVID restrictions. And the person, one of my dear pastor friends, she all she did in the meeting was she said, okay, here's your candle. And she lit it for the people. She said, okay, now blow it out. And every single one of them lifted their masks and blew it out. And then she's like, that is why we can't have candles. And it was just so funny because I thought the same thing. I'm like, what's so bad about having candles? And then I didn't think about that. I really like Christmas.
The candle, yeah, that's pretty. I mean, I think the iconic part of a candlelight service is the lit candle in the service. Probably more than Silent Night, honestly. I don't know.
Well, and the challenge of how do you put it out? That was big in my family. Do you blow it out or do you lick your fingers and try to like...
Yeah, or are you cool
put
and
it
you
out?
lick your fingers and pinch it? Yeah.
I told you that in my family, neither of those are the tradition.
What's yours?
Our goal is every Christmas, after service ends, get the candle home lit.
What?
What? Do you succeed?
We have years that we have succeeded.
That's
Like
insane.
all of you, or is it just have one person have theirs stay?
The goal is to get one candle home lit. Whether that means you start with 10 candles lit or you start with 2 candles. And sometimes we have the problem of candles are burning really, really fast.
Yeah.
And so you
Yeah.
only have a little nub left. And then you grab a second candle and you light it. And that's the candle you take home.
Okay, so you kind of cheat.
A little bit. I don't think that's really cheating, though. Come
So what
in
happens
your
if you
made-up
win,
game,
Andy?
I've never been a part
What do you
of.
win?
on. Well, actually, you don't win anything.
You don't get your Christmas presents if you don't get a candle home.
All of your Christmas presents get donated.
I don't think anybody in my family could enforce that. I'll just be honest. I get my
Santa's
presents.
watching. Santa knows the game.
But yes, so last year we were able to get, I think, 2 candles home, and we took them and we stuck them on top of a Dr. Pepper bottle, and it created a little bit of suction, and it got like stuck there, and it's just a minor laugh. But
This is so
I can just feel
obscure.
people cringing, like, who would do this?
I'm not sure how we got
I feel
here,
like I'm listening to someone talk about like their culture from a country I've never heard of before. This is so bizarre to
From
me.
Andyland.
Everybody has these like
Yeah.
little Christmas traditions or holiday traditions or anything along those lines that are just completely foreign to another family.
Yeah.
Like I
Probably,
know
yeah.
that before we got here and last night, Ruth was suggesting we do a white elephant gift.
It's
exchange.
true. And what we do for White Elephant is we literally find the most ridiculous, random thing in the house that we already own. Like, we don't go buy anything or anything crazy like that. Yeah, because we poor. Anyhow, so we go find something random, and then we all wrap them, and we do the white elephant thing. You know, you pick the numbers, and you can either steal somebody's present, but you can't unwrap it first. That's the fun way to play. Every once in a while, people will play it where they unwrap it, and I'm like, but then you know what it is.
See, I think that's half the fun of it, though, because the stealing from everybody else.
See, and here's the thing. We have this very special thing in my family that has been passed around from white elephant to white elephant. You ever seen SpongeBob?
Yes, I've seen.
Have you ever seen
I know.
SpongeBob?
Very
Is-
iconic thing.
under
Is
the
what
age
Ruth
of-
just said, by the way.
I'm somebody under the age of 30. I've seen SpongeBob.
I don't think that even
Anyhow.
matters.
No, I'm going to guarantee people over the age, but I think under the age of 30, you can guarantee they have seen or heard about SpongeBob.
I was more ironically saying it, but that's fine.
Oh, don't worry, guys. It was
Anyhow.
ironic.
We have this stupid Patrick Star pillow that Sam got, my younger brother. Sorry for saying your name. Sam. He got it when he was like, I don't know, 5, when the only thing you know to get people is whatever show they're interested in. You just find whatever it is and get them stuff with it. So I'm pretty sure I got him this ugly pillow. And it's just been passed around. And it gets, one year I managed to get rid of it because sometimes if you bring it, you still end up with it. I managed to duct tape this pillow because Patrick Star, he has a very distinct shape. So
Yes,
it's
very
very
distinct.
easy. And they try to like hide him in like the Christmas popcorn tubs. And things like that. So then we started to expect that. So I took duct tape and just wrapped him in this giant circle. So it looked like it was like a soccer ball or something. And I played soccer for so long, people thought it was. And I
amazing.
managed to pawn him off on my Aunt Dana. And we haven't been able to have a Christmas, I think, all together in 2 years. So she's been stuck with this horrible thing. And that's our white elephant. So, you know, that was way too much information. You're welcome.
So we've kind of gotten sidetracked a little
A
bit.
lot.
We've gone from church to family traditions to everything. And so now I'm going to bring it back to the church service and in particular, the decorating of the sanctuary. And this is something that Ruth brought up before the podcast, so I can let you take over on this topic if you'd like.
You saw what happens when I start talking. We end up with Patrick Starr being wrapped in duct tape.
It's fine if we end up at Patrick Starr as long as we start someplace relevant.
Oh, okay, just checking. Yeah, so I've been to, probably at least 7 to 10 different churches in my lifetime. Some UMC, some not UMC, various traditions. But one thing that was pretty consistent until I actually became a pastor was that we would there was a big hanging of the greens day. So right before Advent season would start, or the season right before, Christmas, a whole bunch of people from the church would come and they would just decorate the church together. There'd be hot chocolate. There would be lots of kids being yelled at to put things in different places.
Amen.
It was just a very traditional thing that everybody did. And, of course, as the pastor's family, we're like, oh, we got to go to it. Because that's the way it was.
That's exactly how it is.
But, it was just kind of a neat tradition now looking back on it that they always did. And then when I started serving as a pastor, I ended up at a church where one family did all of the decorating. And it threw me off. I don't know why that was so weird to me, but I was like, what is happening? Don't you all decorate together? It was like, no, this person knows where things are. This person puts this up, and you don't touch it. I was like, okay. And I was kind of sad because I actually love Christmas and decorating for Christmas. What about you? You guys?
I don't know if I've ever had a hanging of the greens kind of thing at a church, and I'm not saying it's weird. I just
it might be. I don't know. Maybe it was
all of my mother's churches that she was at. I honestly don't know who decorated for church and everything. I know that here we have an amazing janitorial staff that did it, and it looks amazing. And if you tune into any of our services, you'll see that there.
Oh, it's
and
beautiful.
I'm not saying you have to go, but it's an example, okay? But there was different controversies that came up with different decorations being in specific spots. Oh, that's not where the tree goes. You got to put the tree in this spot, or other things like that. And I know that there are a few examples that come up probably every year in every different place where it's this is how we've done things for forever. This is how we need to continue doing them. Yep. We have that same thing in the candlelights that we did earlier. Everything has to stay constant. We are the church. We keep everything as constant as possible.
Yep. And honestly, I wish I had looked it up before I got here. That would have been smart, but I didn't. To when the candlelight service started. Are you going to look it up for me?
Yeah, give me a minute.
Because honestly, a lot of the things that we call traditions are things that aren't really historically traditions in the church. They're more like traditions over a few generations.
Right.
And so that's always interesting to me is when people will talk about we've always done it this way. But even the past 100 years in terms of church history is very minimal. I mean, that's 1/20th. Yes, I like math of the whole time we've done things. What you got for me? Is it super traditional? Because that'd be awesome.
Well, the only date that I'm seeing on this article is 330 AD, but that's for the celebration of Christmas. That's when that officially started. I'm looking for other dates in here to tell me more about the lighting of the Christmas candles, or that's not the word I was looking for at all.
I know what
candlelit service.
You could probably even start with well, actually, I could ask this. Do you guys have an Advent wreath that went with your candlelight service, or was it just a candlelight service? Did every week, was there a lighting of the candle? I
genuinely do not remember. Okay. I want to say that we did not. I think from my memory, which I'm honestly not putting a lot of stake in, I think we were pretty plain when it came to Christmas season and Advent season. I don't really particularly remember even the term Advent being present when I was younger in the church. But I don't know if it's just my memory tricking me, or if that's actually how it was. I think that we just had sermons around Christmas time, about leading up to Christmas, and then a candlelight service. And I think that was it. I don't really remember any other specific traditions or anything that I would consider a tradition. I don't know. There could have been more that I'm honestly not remembering, but that's really all I have.
And see,
right
I
now.
literally love Christmas, so I remember a lot about Christmas.
Yeah.
Every year I go to Frankenmuth. Like, there's lots of fun stuff.
When I think about my old church and I think about Christmas season in that church, the main thing that only comes to mind is really just the candlelight service.
Yeah.
And nothing else really about Christmas season pops into my head. That's kind of really the best info I can pull from the depths of my brain right now.
Would you like a little bit more info about the history of candles?
Absolutely.
I would love some more info about that.
One of basically the earliest records, according to whychristmas.com.
Aha,
So
yes.
maybe reputable, is that candles started being used in the Middle Ages, where a large candle would represent the Star of Bethlehem
Okay.
and like
That
the
makes
center of
sense.
everything, and that is essentially where the custom of the Advent crown and Advent candles came from. Was that very large Christ candle, which is what we light all of our Advent wreaths from for today, and
Yep.
That's
so interesting. So it is kind of a longer standing tradition.
longer-ish. I don't know if that, again, the candlelit service, the earliest record I can find for that is 1879, and that's in a painting, so it probably happened before then.
Yeah. Which still, though, even if we take that, so 1889, even if we say maybe they started it in
79, but just,
Oh, sorry, my
Sorry.
brain didn't work.
You're
That's
fine.
It's fine.
I figured I'd just help.
There's no help for
1879. Don't forget it.
The
but
Alamo?
even if we, gosh dang it,
Sorry. So,
if we go back to the 1800s, that's still only like 200 years, which is 1/10 of the time of total church history. So it's still kind of interesting to me what we call like the traditions of our church. And I love the candlelight service. I am 1,000,000% in favor. Just if anybody was wondering, I even incorporated it into our contemporary service because I have problems and I couldn't imagine Christmas Eve without it. But yeah, the one thing though that I never, like we always did, but I never really knew the order of was the Advent wreath candles. I always knew, Christmas Eve you end with the Christ candle, like you were talking about earlier in the center, but there was the 3 purple and the 1 pink. And I never knew what order they go. And so, honest to goodness, this year I looked it up again because I'm terrible and I consistently forget. And I swear I found like 3 different versions of it. Some of them had joy, peace, faith, all that stuff. Some of them had other things.
Why don't you go ahead
the names
and
change, but I think the orders don't.
I was going to say, why don't you give a very quick description of even what an Advent wreath is? Because, like I said, I don't even have any memory of anything related. I didn't even know what an Advent wreath was in concept before really becoming part of the UMC.
Take a wreath that you hang on your door, set it on your table. Okay, so now it's on your table. Woo, it's nice. Then there's 5 candle holders in that wreath, and the 4 are in like on the edges, and then there's 1 in the center. And the 4 on the edges are like tall, skinny candles.
Yeah.
And the 1 in the center is sort of like a medium-sized, thick candle.
Yeah.
And they go in order each week of Advent, because Advent is, as we've talked about a little bit before, the time preparing for the birth of Christ. And that is 4 weeks or 4 Sundays before Christmas, that you celebrate that. And so each of those Sundays, you light 1 candle. And they represent different things: joy, peace, love.
We light 1 new candle.
You light 1 new one, yes. So you will continue to light the ones you already lit. And you go through, essentially, it's the journey through Advent.
Yeah.
And then you end on Christmas Eve with the big Christ candle in the center. And it represents how Christ brought all of those things into the world.
And then everybody lights their candles that they hold for the candlelight service from the Christ candle. Like it just your main leader would light their candles from the Christ candle and then go to like the first row or however in the pew segment, go back to segment 1 and watch it if you haven't.
That's why we're putting so much so much thought into like this discussion about how long candlelight services have been around, though, because that's a very, very symbolic gesture. I mean, to someone on the outside who may not have heard it or might not be part of their tradition, they might just think that we're talking about candlelight service being you sit down, you sing Christmas songs in church with a lit candle. But I think what we're really referring to is like a little more than that, which is I think that's what makes the history of that a little bit more interesting. Because that's something that, like I said, I don't really know if I grew up with that in my church. I don't remember it, but I don't think that everyone did, or maybe not everyone has. Even if you grew up in church, you may not have really had a lot of discussion about Advent or the Advent candles as much.
Well, and again, those are one of those things that are symbolic and are really awesome. And it's always weird to me when things become like overly ritualized, if that makes any sense.
Well, they're also 100%. Symbolic and never fully explained sometimes.
Yeah.
I feel like as pastors' kids and as people who have grown up and been frequent in the church, it may be weird to somebody to light an Advent wreath on any given Sunday. Like they come the third week of Advent and they're lighting the third candle, and it's like, what is this Advent season? What does it mean? And I believe there are pamphlets sometimes that tell you, but who picks up a pamphlet?
Some people, believe it or not. I've made pamphlets and I've seen them picked up.
Believe it when I see it.
Thank you. But no, it is always interesting to me, some of these things that for me are like well ingrained into what I've done. But for Elijah, who grew up in a different church tradition, it's sort of like, why do you do these random weird things? Or like my dad always did for, because, he was my pastor most of my life. He always did a family tradition that you would share when you lit the Advent candle. So you would share what the candle was about, but then you'd share a Christmas tradition. And the first time that I explained that to somebody, and when I was pastoring, they were like, what are you talking about? We just get this thing and we read it. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I was really sad because I thought it was what everyone did. But I think that's kind of true of most of us growing up in the church, that Christmas season or otherwise, we have a bunch of stuff that we do that we've been told is super traditional, and we find out that it's actually not across the board. And so I always find those interesting. That's kind of why I wanted to highlight that today.
It's more fun to actually talk about those things than to feel them possibly forced upon you as well. To actually go into it and explain some history behind it instead of just taking it at face value and just saying, it's normal. It must be normal, so I must just be wrong or something.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody get really uppity about the candles, though.
Yeah, but I feel like that's one of the lesser...
Well, but I've never seen somebody try to take the candles away.
Right,
So maybe because Andy's giving me a look of like, oh, you don't know.
This is a fight that we don't have the time for today.
This is very
Sadly,
fair.
we are running out of time for this episode, and we will be back on Thursday, which is Christmas Eve of this week.
Is it Christmas Eve or is it Christmas?
It's Christmas Eve. It's the 24th. I had to double check because I didn't want to say completely incorrectly.
It is on top of things.
I try to be.
I just talk and hope something makes sense. It doesn't usually.
But I want to thank everybody for joining us for this more of a fluffy episode. I know we've gotten a little serious as of recent, and we hope to return to this serious tone of frame, but we've had a couple of more serious ones in a row, so it's good to have this little break from yelling at you for doing everything wrong, if that's how things come across. But they shouldn't.
Oh, gosh.
We love you all.
This has just gone.
Why didn't you guys stop me from talking?
It's just so fun to watch sometimes.
So I want to say happy holidays, Merry Christmas. That's actually something we're going to come back and talk about after this. But I hope that you enjoy the time that I'm getting a phone call from a spam risk.
Better answer that.
Sorry, a little bit distracted. But yes, we hope that you have a happy holidays and you enjoy your time with whatever family that you are going to spend it with whoever you're going to spend it with whatever Skype call, whatever Zoom call you hop on, and you get to see everybody.
And whichever candles you happen to light.
Yeah. For all of us here at Church is Stupid, but I am Andy.
I'm Ruth.
I'm Elijah.
And we hope you have a happy holidays.